Hi everyone, I'm Sloane Taylor and welcome to What's Cooking Wednesday. It's bitter cold here in the Midwest on our filming day, so the crew decided, let's make chili. I'm all for it because we're big sport fans and this is what we cook up for Super Bowl Sunday. So we have ground chuck, not ground beef because there's too much fat in it, onion, green pepper, celery, garlic, bay leaf, olive oil, beef stock, tomatoes, tomato paste, the beans, and our various herbs. We have cayenne and cumin, and then we have basil, oregano, and chili powder, and paprika. And our secret ingredient, baking soda, and I'll explain that one later. Now, this is going to take a little while, and we're going to be cutting the film in different parts so that you don't want to stand there and watch me cook for an hour and a half to reduce the sauce. So now we're going to shut off, go to the stove, and start cooking. So come on around. So we're at the stove now, and we're going to start cooking. And this is the last you'll see of my beautiful new glasses that I just got the other day because it's time to cook. So we warm the pan first, then we pour in our olive oil. And don't forget, the whole recipe will be at the end of the video and long enough for you to be able to see it and write down anything that you want. Now this will be warm enough and you can see, it's got little waves through it, and that indicates it's time. You want to be careful not to have anything too hot so that it does not burn, because that will just make the chili bitter. So we're going to let this brown up a little, or soften it, and it will give kind of a clear look to it. So while that's doing, I have to tell you, all the products that I use, not one of them is sponsored by that food company. So Hunt's, Contadina, McCormick, none of them are affiliated with the show. Don't even know I use their products. I just find them over all these years of cooking to be the best products available. So we have this. Can you hear that little sizzle? That means the oil is good and hot. The onions are cooking properly, and they're starting to change color a little bit. As you can see, they're now getting like a little bit of a greener tone to it, which will happen when onions cook before they become translucent and slightly brown. And that's what we want, get slightly brown. Now we don't want to add the garlic right away because if we do, the garlic will burn before the onions are done. So we add the garlic right about the time our onions are the color we want, and then we only saute the garlic for a minute at best. Now please remember, all these amounts, they're guidelines. If you like more onion, throw in more onion. If you like it not as hot, not as seasoning hot, don't add as much cumin or cayenne. And as far as the diced tomatoes, those come in 4.5-ounce cans. Although the recipe calls for 3 cups, just use 2 cans. It's easier and it'll give a little bit more flavor and juice to the chili. See how it's turning out? If we could fast forward this, if we had a time machine, it would be all ready to go. But it's pretty good. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add our garlic. And you can chop or press. I'm a press type of person. Chopping takes too long, too much work for me. Get a good garlic press, you'll love it. You'll use it more than you've ever imagined. Scrape the garlic off the bottom. Give a a quick mix in the pan. See those onions getting translucent and golden color? Now, to clean the press, you take a fork, pop it through the holes, and that gets out the residue of your garlic, so you waste nothing. But you do have to peel the garlic before you put it in the press. Some people don't, but then they get all that paper skin in there. Papery skin, I should say. And we don't want that. Okay. So now we have done this. And about a minute is gone from adding in the garlic. And there's the color that you want the onions. Okay? So now we're going to add the meat. Going to turn it up to medium-high, and then you have to break up this beef so you don't end up with a giant meatloaf. And let it brown up. And you be sure to come back next week because we're going to be doing appetizers next week. Old Studs and I are invited to a nephew's house for a party, and Sean and his beautiful wife Melly entertained very well, and I am allowed to bring an appetizer, but I'm going to surprise them and bring two, so you can see two easy appetizers next week. Okay, now we're going to cut off, because you do not want to have to watch this brown for 10 or 15 minutes. We'll be back as soon as this is all done. So now you see how it's crumbled up, but it's still too pink to finish the recipe. But now is the time to add your green pepper and mix that in. And now you let it cook until it's done. So we still have about 5 minutes. So welcome to the white spot. So now our meat and the green pepper and onion are all perfect. And don't worry about this juice that's in there. That is going to be a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of the juice from the meat. And that's going to add flavor to our chili. So now we're going to add in the tomatoes. Stir them in. And then the other can of tomatoes. We'll stir that in. Now, we want to get that combined before we add in the paste. And I'll tell you what we're going to do. This is a neat little deal. Works great. So you open the one side of the can of tomato paste, then turn it over, and hopefully this, there we go. Then you use the can opener to open the other side. Make sure you pop it all the way through. Take off your opener and use your fingers to gently push that other portion, that other lid, so to speak, into your pot. Scrape it off and dump it out. That way, you get everything out of the tomato paste. Okay, and not just a bit where you're trying to scrape it out. Handy dandy, works great. Now, we're going to add our beef stock, not broth, because that is not flavorful enough. We add that in. Got a big pot of chili, don't we? Okay, we've got that. And then we're going to add the celery. While that's mixing there, we're going to add in our 2 bay leaves, and you will remember to take those out before you serve. Just dip them to sink them because you don't want them to shred all up. Now we're going to add the spices. And for this, I am going to have to refer back to my menu, my recipe, sorry. So I make sure I get it all accurate. So we want 1 teaspoon of paprika. Make sure you get Hungarian paprika, sweet Hungarian paprika. Doesn't matter what brand it is, this is the best thing to cook with. It does not turn bitter as you are cooking. So, sprinkle it across, don't just lump it in one big thing, because then that'll be nasty. And then from there we're going to go to cayenne. Cayenne is a ground red pepper. Now, the recipe calls for a ½ teaspoon. I like just a little tiny bit less, because I got an old stomach, and old stomachs don't like real spicy food. Now we're going to go with the ground cumin, and that wants a teaspoon. But again, we're going to go a little bit less, like that, because we don't want it really, really spicy. Well, at least Studs and I don't want it really spicy. So we do that. Now, you should stir. See, when you get a couple of things and you need to stir so it isn't just this big lump of glunk. Okay? So we stir that in. And next we go with the chili powder. And we're to put in 4 tablespoons of chili powder. That's a lot of chili powder, but it sure is good. So, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. After that, this time we're going to mix in the chili powder because that's a big addition. We want it to blend in and, like I say, not just all coagulate in the center. Okay, now we are going to add the oregano, and we want a tablespoon of that. And then we're going to include the basil. Now, we only use a ½ teaspoon of basil. So you're saying, so why are you even bothering with it? Because it cuts some of the bitter and adds just a tiny, tiny little deal of sweet. Nice little additional taste. So we mix this in. And there we go. Now, you don't add the beans or the baking soda yet, because those 2 ingredients should be added approximately 10 minutes before you serve. Otherwise your beans are going to get too mushy. So now we're going to cover this, and we're going to let it cook for 1 hour to 1.5 hours to condense the juices. So you say, so why add all that stuff in if you're just going to boil it down? The reason we want to do that is because the flavor becomes intensified. It makes a beautiful taste on your buds, and you're going to love it that way. If you serve it like this, it's too watery, it's too thin, not enough flavor. So we'll be back in my time in 1.5 hours, in your time about 5 seconds. See you in a bit. So the chili has thickened, and we're ready to go with the rest of the meal. And as you will see, you need to cook this without the lid so it does reduce. Otherwise, it's going to just stay as thin as it was. And you'll see that the counter is a mess, so you just take a little vinegar spray and a paper towel or a cloth, however you prefer. Wipe it up, and all gone. I'm not doing this part because I don't want to set myself on fire. Now, we're going to add the beans, and then we're going to add the baking soda. So, allow me to open this can while that is still simmering. buy chili beans in mild sauce, which this is, or you can get it hot and then you can get it scorching. Again, since you're adding spices, I would suggest you use the mild chili beans. That's all you need, because you're adding in all those good herbs and spices, so you don't need the hot beans. Now, here's the fun part. Remember I told you our secret ingredient was baking soda? A very old and good friend of mine, paranormal author Yasmin Phoenix, taught me this a long time ago. You sprinkle on a teaspoon of baking soda. Mix it in and see what's happening? See how it's foaming? That is taking the gases out of the beans so they're easier to digest, and your intestinal tract will love you for it. Now, when I'm going to split this and freeze part of this recipe, when I thaw it out again, I will then put in another little teaspoon of baking soda to again reduce the activity against my colon. The enemy of my colon are beans. So there we go. Works good, huh? So now here is our finished product, served with a nice cold glass of beer, and you will enjoy it, and hopefully your family will too. That's it for this week. May you spend all the days of your life with laughter and friends seated around a well-laden table. See you next week. Bye.